What's up, my friend? Welcome to this episode of Dear ARREYB, the podcast, and this is a very brand new episode. And on this episode, I take you on a very special journey of first introducing myself to you and also just show you an insight into what these episodes are going to look like. This is Dear ARREYB, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. So this is basically my story on how I went from dropping out of school to starting an internet business that changed my life, listed me among the British Council's top 100 worldwide, featured me on the BBC, and writing a best-selling internet book. But most importantly, a special concept of what I call being here.
Let's bring in Arrey Bate, Cameroonian journalist and political blogger. Thanks for taking time to talk to us and Focus on Africa.
Also joining us tonight is Arrey Bate.
One of Cameroon's finest journalists in the person of Arrey Bate.
Arrey Bate, fondateur d'un groupe de médias.
ARREYB of ARREYB Media.
Arrey and his team.
Arrey Bate.
He is so knowledgeable.
Very competent.
Very professional.
Has so many ideas.
He's ever smiling, he's ever laughing, and he's got knowledge.
After you talk to for the first time, you feel like you've known him all your life.
He's known for his expertise and innovative problem-solving skills.
No one comes close to ARREYB.
Now, in 2014, when I got admission to study journalism and mass communication in the University of Boya, I remember traveling to Boya to live with my senior brother called Ndip, and things became really tough for us that we were not able to rent a house. So Ndip and I decided that we were going to first hide the news away from our parents, because we knew that if we tell our parents, mom and dad, we can't rent a house, they'll probably go around trying to borrow just to make sure that we were okay. So the first thing first was, we're not going to tell dad, we're not going to tell mom about this. And so one time we met a friend. It was a friend called Gabriel who took us into his house. And I remember when Gabriel heard our story, we just met him. We were friends for a very short period of time. But when Gabriel hears our story, he hears that we can't afford to have a house. He says to us, hey man, I have an idea. Why don't you guys move in with me? And so we're seated there. We're like, we haven't even known this dude for quite a while, and he's already offering to house us. My brother Deep and I said, okay, cool. I mean, why not? We didn't have an option. Gabriel said, yeah, sure, no problem. So we moved in with Gabriel. It was a single room, a toilet and a kitchen, and we had to put up 3 of us inside that specific room. And the first week passed, I was super happy. First, because I was about to start school. The following week, we had no specific place to live. We were pushing around, and we had just gotten a house because Gabriel had offered to let us into the house. And so I remember saying to myself, oh, like, this is a big break at this moment. So we lived with Gabriel the first week, the second week, and then the third week, something happened that changed the course of events. And I remember Gabriel walked into the room one time and said, guys, there's some problem. Okay. What's the problem? So Gabriel says, do you guys remember my landlord, the one who is always seated out there when you guys are passing? We're like, yeah, we know him. It's like, yeah, so the landlord has called me and said, the tenancy agreement for this house stipulates that only one person is supposed to stay in this room. Boom. So that's the problem, right? The first thing is, with 3 of us, Gabriel is trying to let us into his house. And at the time, we didn't want to cause problems between Gabriel and his landlord, because again, he was helping us. And so we came up with a plan, 3 of us. We decided and said we were going to come in late at night. That's what my brother and I said, that we'll come in very late at night, and very early in the morning we would leave. So that means that if I went to school in the morning, let's say I had a class from 7 a.m. to about 9 a.m. Even if I finished my classes at 9 a.m., I couldn't return back. I had to loiter right up to about night so that I don't return. The landlord sees me, and that will cause more problems for Gabriel. And so that's how we spend the rest of our time, just loitering outside. And so my senior brother and I started thinking, we were like, how do we even raise some money for ourselves at this point? At the time, my brother and I had something in common, that we played music. So my senior brother played the piano and I played the bass guitar. So he picked up his phone and started calling his friends. I was like, hey man, as you guys know, my junior brother just joined me in Boya. And as you know, I played a piano, he plays the bass guitar, and we wanted to ask you if you have any concerts, crusades, weddings, funerals, anything we could play at. And that's how we decided to start, like, kind of splitting ourselves between the gigs. We needed to find gigs between concerts. We played at funerals, crusades, weddings, and anything we could lay our hands on to get some money at the time. And that was how we raised 81,000 francs to pay for our very first student room. That's approximately 9,000 francs per month in a room in Boya. And as I speak to you right now, I can still remember how small and tiny that particular room was. But again, it was a step ahead, right? And I started saying to myself, oh, at this point, this is at least a big break, where we had gone from not having a house to at least being able to afford a house for ourselves because of the money that we had gotten from music. And so in 2016, something happened that changed the game again for me. When I thought that maybe we were trying to find ourselves, I was like, oh, this is a cool time, we're trying to find ourselves. And one of these days, my brother walks into the house and says something like, I'm leaving town. So when he first of all said it, I didn't understand. The first thing for me was like, oh, cool, so when are you coming back? He's like, no, you don't get it. I'm leaving town for good. So just at that moment, I started to reflect back on the journey right from the start to the point where we were. And for me, this was my senior brother with whom I had just moved to the city with. He had helped to settle me and most of the things. Again, just having the fact that you have a bigger person next to you, you guys are doing life together. I think that was some consolation for me. But at that point, it flashed before my eyes that I was going to do life alone. And I didn't know who I was going to look up to at the time. So time came, my senior brother left, and the rest of the year I just spent it trying to figure out things all by myself. And I started thinking to myself, first things first, I needed to pay again for the house rent. I needed to pay for an entire year because, again, when the year runs out, you have to do another deposit and pay. And so I started asking myself, what if I started writing for newspapers? At the time, I studied journalism and mass communication in the University of Boya. And so I said, okay, maybe go out there, look for a couple of jobs, look for a couple of roles where you could volunteer or just do something in regards to what you're studying at the university. And so I remember one day I went to the newspaper kiosk. This is super funny story. One day I go to the newspaper kiosk and I said, at the time I couldn't even afford the luxury of just buying newspapers for the sake of reading it. But I said to the owner of the newspaper kiosk, I can never forget this kiosk was located at Clark's quarters in Boya. So I went there and I said to the owner of the newspaper, I'm like, hey man, I have a favor to ask you. And it's like, what's the point? What's the favor? And so I said to him, please, I don't have money to buy papers, but can you please help me? I just want to check something inside of each paper. Now, for those of you who read newspapers, there's something called the masthead in a newspaper. The masthead is a page inside of the newspaper that contains detailed information about the newspaper itself, from the publisher to the bureau chiefs to their emails to their contacts. And I was saying to him, I wanted him to let me have a look into each of these newspapers and write down the names and contacts of these publishers. But I would not buy them because, again, I could not afford to buy them. And so it's like, I give you just 15 minutes. You can round that up and do that so fast. That was a big break for me. So I was like, yeah, cool. And so I just went in there, started writing down the names of newspaper publishers and their contacts and their emails. And that specific day, I wrote down the contacts of 23 publishers. And when I went home, I created my phone and I started calling them. Hello, sir. My name is Arrey. You don't know me, but I'm a student in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. First things first, I wanted to say congratulations on all your work. But sir, I look at your paper and I remember you don't have some current stories from Boya. If you would allow me, I am a student in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. I would love to contribute and write some free stories for you. I don't need to get paid. I just want to volunteer. And so most of them will be like, all right, cool. Arrey, now that we know, we're going to reach out to you if there's anything, and they'll hang up. Some people did not pick up. I send them an email. Some did not respond. But one of them picked up, and he's of late right now. One of them picked up, Mr. Akotanya, is of late. And he said to me, hey, Arrey, it's interesting that you're saying this because I'm in your town in the next couple of weeks. Can we meet? I was like, cool. That was the first big break for me. And so I would never forget the day I met Mr. Tanyi. I dressed in my best shirt. We literally met at one bar. He got some food for me and he explained to me the vision of the newspaper. And that's how I started writing for Cameroon Herald newspaper. And I wrote for a while, but something happened later on around the crisis time. The newspaper shut down. So many other things were happening with the company. And I was like, back to square one again. How do I even start to feed? How do I even start to raise money for myself? And a thought came to my mind at the time. And I started asking myself, what if I started publishing some of these stories that I was writing for the newspaper? What if I just took some of these stories online That was the first time I thought about starting anything online, because for me, I knew that if I started to make some money online, maybe I would be able to continue paying rent on the room which my senior brother left for me, and I would be able to feed in school. I would be able to afford some handouts and just take care of some basic necessities for myself. That's how I went on WordPress. I created a free blog and I started to publish some of the stories, but I couldn't make any money from the entire thing the very first year, because even if I published the stories, it was very hard to get anyone or any clients to advertise on the website or anything. And I tested everything at the time. And I remember that if someone said to me, "Hey, Arrey, this is going to make you more money online," I'll just jump on it desperately and without a second thought, because I was trying to find what was working. And it was around the same time when the crisis started. And at the time, I decided to myself, maybe I would publish one story every single day. So one time I remember, after publishing a bunch of different stories, from love stories to politics to social news to human rights to different kinds of stories, I remember one time I published a specific story and that had about 1,000 views, and it blew up. And I went to the back end of my website and I was looking, I was like, oh jeez, like this has really had 1,000 people have read this story, really? And I thought about it, I was like, okay, what if I put more energy and started writing something around this same line of stories? What if I created more content around this particular thing? I remember that was the first time I said to myself, maybe I should take up blogging full time and see how to try my luck in it. And so I decided at the time that I was going to publish one story every single day for the next 1,000 days. And I made a promise to myself. I said, Arrey, if you publish one single story every single day for the next 1,000 days and you don't see a difference, then you need to leave this field. Then you need to stop blogging, because maybe this is not for you. And what happened? Later down the line, to be honest, maybe a couple of months down the line, I started getting some huge spikes. So every time we had a couple of stories out, I started getting from 500 views, I'll get to 700. Some views will come down to 300, and other times it will skyrocket to about 1,000, 1,005. And later down the year, I remember we started getting about 30 to 50,000 readers on my news website every single month. And I was like, jeez. And so I came up with a small idea. I took a screenshot of all of these stats and I put together a small team, and we created a small business page, and we sent a team out, and I said, look, hey, go out, go pitch some of these businesses. And we were saying to them, hey, my name's Arrey, you don't know me, I don't know you, but I run a blogging news website and we're getting over 30 to 50,000 people read our news website every single month. Could you please place a banner ad on our website? That's how I decided to delve into blogging full time, and I started building a platform. The entire time I spent the late nights trying to benefit from discounted midnight internet bundles to build a platform, because again, it was very difficult to get internet the whole time. So I would say to myself, okay, maybe I would try the bundle. I put it for the entire night and I'd spend the time researching on YouTube or reading other articles on how to, or maybe finding some mentors that I could learn from and just improve on my blogging skill. Most of the things that I tried at that time didn't work, but a few of the real secrets that did work started to compound on each other over time. And the thing that I remember is that even though I failed multiple times, every new trial kind of helped me to discover something which led to another, and one thing kept leading to another. So every time I tried to do something, even if it didn't work, I kind of discover one new little thing, and I'll be like, oh, okay, so this is working. Maybe I could incorporate this into another style, into another thing that I was working on. And when I started discovering ways of blogging better, I remember at the time people would read my stories and they'll say to me, hey, Arrey, I see that you're really good with blogging. I see that you're good with WordPress. Could you come in and train our team on how to use our own business website, which is built on WordPress? And I'll be like, oh, cool, no problem. I go in there, I train their teams on how to use WordPress. And when the trainings went really well, sometimes they would come to me and say, hey, Arrey, there's this event coming up. And I heard a friend talking about it. And I said to him, there's no better person to talk about social media than you. And that's how I started learning how to present myself properly, how to speak, how to articulate myself better, or at least have an improvement from what I was doing. So when I went out, I had the speaking engagements and they went very well. Sometimes you hear someone say, hey, Arrey, you seem to know a lot about social media and how to navigate these tools. Why don't you come in for a special consultancy with our team? I was like, oh, cool, really, consultancy? And that's how gigs upon gigs. So one thing led to another. It started off with me just creating a blogging website. From creating a blogging website, people saw that I was good using WordPress. They'll call me to train their teams. And when I trained their teams, it led to speaking engagements. When I had speaking engagements, because I delivered at least in a moderate way or in a better way, obviously you grow with it, but it led to many more things like consultancies and social media management and different opportunities around the internet. So at some point, something happened that changed the game. We started getting into problems with some of these businesses because they say to us, hey, Ray, we're putting our banner ad on our website, but we can't actually know how many people are clicking on X and X ad, and we can't even know how many people are coming through your website. And so the difficulties for me at that time was, how do I even make sure that I could predictably tell clients, this is X and X amount of clients I will bring to you if you advertised on my website. And so I decided at the time that I will start sharing my journey, but not just sharing my journey, transitioning the business from just advertising on the blogging website to building an actual marketing agency that could predictably at least help businesses to get clients on social media. And that's exactly what I did. I went out there, found some mentors and learned from them. And today I have set up a business which is helping entrepreneurs and business owners to get clients on social media through paid ads, email marketing, building sales funnels, and any way possibly that they could get clients on the internet. And while that is a happy life for me, that's just one of the successes that I've had over the last couple of years, being interviewed live at the BBC, recognized among the British Council's top 100 young journalists worldwide, winning Oxford University's Global Leadership Challenge, and writing a best-selling internet book. This equals several conferences, workshops, mentorship programs that me and my team have organized, and building a fast-growing community of young entrepreneurs and career starters that I truly care about. It is one of my fundamental beliefs that when we reach a certain point in success or in business or even in life, in order to continue growing, the student must become the teacher and help others who are on the same journey. Not necessarily because you become the best, but because the process of sharing helps you to discover more about yourself, to learn more, and that's how you truly find your voice. So as I'm growing and I'm building on these secrets, I've decided to start documenting the journey and the strategies that I'm discovering in real time. I've decided to always put them together and sharing some of my best observations, my failures, my roadblocks. And in all this, my hope is that my story resonates with every young and ambitious person who is like myself out there and who is on the journey of building and finding their own voice. For me, it's one of my concepts that I call being here. And being here for me is a concept that I always practice with myself. And it's about saying I'm not where I want to be, but when I look back, I'm not where I used to be before. And so in this phase that I am right now, I'm going to be present in the moment and enjoy what the process is teaching me. And so being here for me is saying whatever stage I am right now, this might probably be the lowest stage that I will ever be in my life. So my friend, welcome to Dear ARREYB, and I am your host, Arrey Bate, and each week we are going to bring to you an inspiring person or message. The past years of my life, I've spoken to presidential candidates, renowned leaders in business, entertainment, politics, media, and this is what Dear ARREYB, the podcast, is all about. From personal experiences, unfiltered and inspiring conversations with the most successful people I meet on my journey, I'm on a mission to inspire you, my friends, to unlock your inner potentials and to keep chasing the better versions of yourselves. So once more, my friend, welcome. And to follow these episodes, don't forget to join the community by hitting the follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Please check out our community in the description below. And like I always say, my friends, cheers to many more years of shamelessly living and crazily excelling in passion and purpose. And I'll speak to you on the next episode.